Now, in Keir Starmer's first news conference as Prime Minister, he highlighted the need to deal with overflowing prisons, admitting there is no overnight solution.
We're going to talk to Steve Searby. He's from the Prison Officers Association, which represents thousands of prison workers across the UK. And Steve, I understand you're chairman of the POA at the prison in Norwich. What's the situation like in your jail at the moment?
Yeah, good morning, Roger. Well, the situation at our prison, which is a reception prison, is the same as many other prisons that accept people committed by the courts. We're regularly locking out prisoners because we don't have the space. Prisoners are then being sent to other prisons, and this is a national problem. The national problem that we are currently in is not something that has just come over the hill. This has been coming for years and years. Our NEC, that's our National Executive Committee of the Prison Officers Association, predicted that jails would be full by October 23. So 7-8 months down the line, they weren't far out with their prediction. And that prediction was made years ago.
So, Steve, if you could speak to Keir Starmer this morning and give him a couple of ideas for quick fixes that he can do immediately to try and alleviate the problem. Does such a thing exist? What would you recommend he does?
Well, I appreciate the sentiments and the comments of Keir Starmer, but unless he's got a magic wand, this is something that he has actually already said that you can't fix overnight. If you want to increase prison spaces, it'll take on average 3 years to build a prison. So the immediate impact of the situation we're in, I cannot see how we are getting out of this crisis. The whole criminal justice system has been in crisis for pre-COVID. You take, for instance, that there are now almost up to 70,000 people waiting to be tried at a Crown Court. And I think the figure for Magistrates Court is over 300,000. Now, the situation is something that isn't going to go away. You can't push it under the carpet. It's got to be dealt with. But I sit here now and I speak to colleagues all over the country and there is no immediate fix.
The new prisons minister, who you'll be aware Keir Starmer has brought in, the chief executive of Timson's, a company which has a track record of employing ex-offenders and giving them a route back into society, James Timson, has previously said that perhaps as many as a third of prisoners that actually need to be there, effectively therefore that 2/3 don't need to be there. That obviously would free up a lot of spaces. Is there any element of, a lot of people will be horrified to hear that, but is there any grain of truth in what he says?
Well, I would say that we, under the Conservative government, because of the prison population pressures that they brought in an early release scheme, that scheme currently sits at being released 70 days early. But unfortunately, the infrastructure that is in the community doesn't exist to any great extent. So a lot of the time we set up people to fail. I can give you an example of the fact that under the early release scheme, almost half, 50% of people we released under the early release scheme came back within 14 days.
Mm. And that's one of the things that Keir Starmer said yesterday, isn't it, about the need to try and intervene earlier in I think he called it the escalator of people getting involved in crime, and he specifically referenced young people and knife crime.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, under the early release scheme, people that commit crimes of a serious nature, not that all crimes are serious, there's always a victim. Knife crime needs to be sorted at ground root level with teenage children. It is a massive problem in this country. However, those sort of people don't qualify for any sort of early release scheme. And the situation we're facing is I'm sitting here and I'm just scratching my head as to what the answer is. The other answer, the other issue with this is that the prison service has been the forgotten service for years and years and years. And it's a case of, I think, out of sight, out of mind. And the hard-working staff are having a detrimental effect on them as well. I would say to Keir Starmer that, you know, you've got to sit down, get the people that know what they're talking about round the table and discuss this and have some effect, some positive effect with what you are claiming that you can do.
They've talked about building new prisons, but obviously it's not an instant fix to you know, you can't build a new prison overnight. It takes a number of years. How much do you fear that this situation could get worse before it gets better?
Well, the way we sit at the moment is that it is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. If I sat here now and I had that magic wand and we could sit here and say, yes, we will do X, Y, Z, I cannot see any outcome that is positive to the situation we are in. Mr. Timpson said he believed there was a third of people in prison that shouldn't be in prison. That may be the case, but what do we do with those prisoners? Because, as I said, there needs to be massive funding in the infrastructure, into the probation service, and into the community payback scheme, because there is no solution as we sit here now.
Steve Searby from the Prison Officers Association at Norwich Prison. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us this morning. Thanks for getting up early, Steve.
Thank you.